Yeah.
We're gonna have a little open discussion around some of those here tonight. Matter of fact, Liz, Marie, would you guys be willing to, when I ask for it, share a little bit about yours?
About our win, or what did you say?
No, about your lead magnet.
Oh, yes. Marie can.
Because I absolutely love it.
I know.
Do you want to know the craziest thing
Okay,
too?
that's a fact.
We got off the phone, right? And we were talking about an intern or like finding someone who wants to learn the ropes. And literally the next day, out of nowhere, my neighbor texts me and she's like, I really hate what I'm doing. I've been doing this for so long. I'm freelance. I work for the government. I really want to learn about real estate. Will you show me the ropes? And I was like, oh, thank you. Yes. Come work for me for free. And she was like, I will.
Look at that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And she speaks Spanish fluently, so she's going to translate our lead magnet for us.
Perfect.
Yeah. I have to say, I'm ready to use it because the house I'm finishing up right now, the lady across the street just passed away. And so her daughters have the house, and I've already spoken with them about that, but I want to show them the difference in going with someone, like with Marie and myself.
We'll get into that here soon. I would like to have you guys share it if you don't mind, just to not necessarily go through the whole thing. I just want to share a few pieces out of it, because it would be good for a lot of individuals to think a little bit outside the box like you guys did. So, but with that, we'll go ahead and kick it off. Just double check. Okay. Got everybody on one screen here so I can see everybody now. So as you guys can see, I am back in the office, back in LA. I want to just kind of start first by saying thanks to, and really a true thank you to all those that kind of had to deal with crazy changes of a bunch of things over the last couple of weeks. A couple of guys have had to push meetings off. A couple of you I still need to get back into the schedule with. So I just really appreciate the flexibility. The last 2 weeks have been a little crazy on our end, but I'm glad to kind of be back now and kind of getting back into the rhythm of things. So thank you from the bottom of my heart on that one. It was a blessing to be able to kind of blend it all and do what I could, but there were some that I just needed to move around. So, but with that, I want to first start with hearing from you guys. What's gone on over the last week? What are we working on? What wins have we had? If you've got something that you want to share that's, exciting, something good, positive, feel free to share. And then we'll kind of go from there. I am going to put a few people on the spot if they don't share about some stuff, but I'll let it open up first. Who's got something positive they do want to share?
We hired two more VAs today, and got purchased our auto dialer, REI Reply. So that's a big plus for us. Hit our stuff for this week. Moved us forward a couple steps.
2 new VAs.
Yep.
And some new tools, new toys, we call them.
Yep.
What do VAs do for you?
Awesome.
They're going to be doing cold calling.
Cool.
So some cold calling VAs.
Yep.
Got it. Who else got something fun over the last week that you want to share?
Well, I'm sharing for Kim. She's not saying anything.
What did I do?
One of her hard money lender has asked her to be on their website. And I just thought that it was just so great that her website can be out there and that they can utilize her as one of their good clients that has success in their area.
I forgot
Kim,
about
expand
that.
on that. Enlighten us.
Yeah, my hard money lender reached out to me and asked if they could feature us on their page, one of our rehabs that they did, because they loved how it turned out. So they just want to share it with everybody. So that was a win. I forgot I shared that with the group, but yeah, thanks, Mickey. So there, and I what I did was I asked them, is there any way for them to add any kind of backlinks in there so that it, comes back to our website or our Facebook page. And I just sent off all of the links to them and they're gonna include it.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Who else has got something?
I have a question. So I guess as a follow-up to the meeting last week, I started working on the lead magnets. So
Okay,
I'm not sure.
I have an idea where you're going. We're going to get into questions and open discussion here in a little bit. So hold that.
Okay.
I'll come back to you on that.
All righty.
Wins. Who's got wins they want to share?
I do have a small win though.
Let's hear it.
I guess it's not necessarily tied to my website right now, but I've been working on my business credit for my business. And so I just got like a huge jump in one of the scores for my Experian, I guess, business report. So I'm really excited about that because I've been working on that diligently. And maybe I can speak to Jordan about that as well, because I kind of peeked around on his website.
Thumbs up on
So yeah,
that.
so
Good for you.
I
yeah,
wouldn't talk to
thanks.
Jordan. He doesn't know anything about credit.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, that's fair. But yeah, so that was a big, or at least a good win for me in terms of the business, because I'm hoping to use that, scale that a little bit more to build funding and do use that for deals and stuff like that. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I will 100% encourage you to reach out to Jordan. Because not only from a
Good job.
business side, but he's got some cool things up his sleeves from a personal side that can also help you out.
Because I mean, also I wanted to piggybacking also on some of the other folks on the call, like building the ambassadors site. So, if I speak with Jordan, I can hopefully put him on the site once we talk and have a conversation and stuff like that. So
Absolutely. Jordan, actually, why don't you share what happened on the real estate side this past week?
Well, you already told the world on TRC and your live videos, but I guess if you didn't see it. So me and Jake Roger steps on the geotagging images and putting them out on our website. We had it, like Roger and Sean said.
I think he's
there's
breaking
only
up,
a few
isn't he?
house flippers here.
Yeah.
We had jobs and put them out on. Is it?
Yeah, you're.
Am I good now? It says it's unstable, so my sucks.
That's a little better now.
I turned my Wi-Fi off on my phone. Is that better?
Yep.
Cool. So we just went out and geotagged all of our rental properties and put them on our rentals page. And we're using HubSpot. So what that did is we've been getting flooded with potential tenants. Our properties aren't even vacant. We just went out and geotagged them. And people are going through our website, getting on our forms, submitting buyer forms or tenant forms, and they're just flooding our inbox. So we really didn't know what to do with them at first, but after me and Sean and Jacob had a conversation, it's just kind of streamlining a process to be able to retain those contacts and push emails to them at a later date when we do have a property available for them to rent. So that was pretty cool. That was a nice little test that's showing that.
False advertising.
Yeah, I didn't say they were for rent. I just geotagged the pictures and they started popping up in Google, I guess. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, Roger, you can even, if you want, share a little bit on this, but it's a perfect example, right? I kind of went over those that are part of the 6-month challenge. I talked a little bit about this in that live video. Perfect example of you went out, you took some action, and results started to show. Again, I kind of mentioned it to Jordan and Jacob when we talked the other day. Lower competition market as far as online goes. This was, it skyrocketed results. Is that going to always happen? Not necessarily, but it is that one element that maybe the competition wasn't doing. And and all of a sudden there's no search queries showing up, but you did that, and now that gave Google something to throw up in there. So major win. The best part of the call was when Jacob said yet again, how do we turn this off? I always laugh when I hear those type of comments. My immediate answer was, you don't turn it off, you learn how to follow up faster. Anything you want to talk about on that real quick, Roger?
Yeah, so I'll just throw that in. When I heard about the case study, everything that was happening, something for everybody to take away. Sean basically kind of nailed it. It depends on your market, right? And that's why we share a lot of different strategies, because not every strategy will work the same in every market. So it just kind of depends on what type of market you're in, and we can't see it. You can't see it till you actually apply, and you start applying the different types of strategies, and then you analyze. Once again, we're going back to data-driven decisions. Then you analyze what happened, and then you kind of put, your more eggs in that basket, right? That's working. So in this case, I can already kind of look at, without looking at anything further than what Jacob and Jordan have done, I'm basically looking at it as like, all right, if this stuff is popping up and they're kind of searching for certain things, that means Google doesn't have a lot in their database to show if we didn't optimize even further. So that means these guys are just found a hotspot. And now we got to figure out what happened, what type of people came in, and see if we can even exploit that hotspot even more, right? So that's the things that you guys are looking for. I think for Jacob and Jordan, you guys have something there. Kind of deal with the leads that came in. Obviously take Sean's advice on how you're going to deal with that, but we should be coming back to that. That conversation should still stay on the table, and see if there's any more juice we can pull out of that. So kind of leave it with that. For everybody else, everything that you're applying, watch your data, watch your leads, watch your rankings, right? It's not all about, hey, no one's calling me. It's, am I moving the needle? If I move the needle, remember the page 1, position 1, 2, and 3 are the golden spots. That's where most of the traffic is at. So if you're moving the needle, that's good. So you got to watch where you're at in your efforts overall.
Even gives me a good idea too. We've got a flip coming up, so we're going to geotag the hell out of that thing and just see what happens. They can watch our progress on a property like that. That will be ready in a few months. So we'll see what we can do with that.
Awesome.
Anybody else? Any wins? Anything they want to share? Going once, going twice. All right. So with that, tonight we are just going to leave this as kind of a open floor discussion. We've been talking a lot the last couple of weeks. Roger was doing some stuff. I know I talked last week and shared some different things on when it comes to the lead magnet side. I know a number of you guys are working on different lead magnets. So I wanted to open it up for more of an open discussion on what do you got going on? What are you working on? Do you have questions around it? Is there things you want to throw out, ideas that you want help with? Whatever the case is. And then I do want Liz and Marie here in a little bit to share theirs. Not because I want everybody to go and copy it, but because it's a perfect, we had a call last week and I was looking at it, and then Marie sent it over to me to really look at in detail. And it's a great example of outside the box. It's a great example of not what the competition is doing. And Jordan says, if you're in real estate, I'm copying it. You could copy it from a idea standpoint. You can't copy what they've done because they really have used something that's true and local to them on it. So with that being said, let's start with questions first. I know Lorraine, you were starting to ask a question earlier, so I'll let you kind of go first. We'll see whatever questions are at, and then Liz, Marie, we'll circle back to that here in a second.
I guess it was more of just a general question, because I went to that site that was suggested and I kind of found ones that I thought were applicable to my website, and I did edit it, but more so in a Word type of format. And so then I didn't really know how to change it back to dress it up and make it look all nice. So I don't know, I guess I'm kind of in limbo in that respect.
So you have it in a
Yeah.
Word format, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I sent it over, but uh,
And you want to make it look nicer than just a Word doc?
yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to look like a ebook kind
Okay.
of thing.
Oh, and so,
Um,
you know, for
right?
Marie and I, we're gonna hire somebody on Fiverr or something to pretty
Liz,
it
you're
up.
killing my thunder, girl.
I just had to get in there. You said. Anyone else?
I was going to tell Lorraine to write down this website that I talk about quite a bit called Fiverr.com.
I mean, I'm familiar with Fiverr. Okay.
The other one to write down is Upwork.com. Quit trying to do it yourself, basically, is what I'm saying. You've got the Word doc, you've got the hard part, you've got the content, you've edited it, you've cleaned it up, it's got in it what you want in it.
Mhm.
Jump on Fiverr, jump on Upwork, look for ebook designers and pick one, hire them, have them do the heavy lifting, and they'll send it back to you in a PDF format. And then from there, it's ready to be loaded up to be delivered. And for you,
And-
you're inside a HubSpot. It's actually going to get delivered via the forms in your HubSpot account.
So that was going to be my next question. So, okay. So on the website now, when someone goes to the website, you have the box, they give their name, their email, their phone number. Once they they're going to be some sort of prompt to say opt in to get this information, or do they still have to opt in and then they get the ebook?
You're going to build an entire new section on the site that talks about the ebook, and you're going to go in and build an entire new form inside of HubSpot for just that purpose. First name and email. That's all you need for that lead magnet opt-in.
Okay. So then I
That
already
auto
have-
reply email from the form in HubSpot is going to be
Yeah.
that's where it's going to fire off. It'll have a link to be able to download that document,
Okay, got it. Okay.
as well as Roger and the team. They could build a thank you page that form redirects to, that would also have a button for them to click and download the document right there.
Because the way it is right now, if somebody opts in on my site, I had created a Google form to capture information before they set up like a consultation to talk to me. So this ebook is going to be before that Google form or after?
It depends where you're using it at and what you want to do. Again, now we're getting into strategy here a little bit.
Okay.
Let's get it done first. And then
Got it.
once you have it done, then we can think about where do we want to put it in the process.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I can actually throw a couple things in because I think it applies to everybody working on lead magnets. Let's keep it simple for those of you that haven't started. I know some of you guys have already created something, but good topic Lauren's bringing up here. When you're getting your PDF, your ebook created, right? You're going to end up with the Word doc if you did some adjustments or whatnot, and then you're going to send it over to somebody to brand it. Number one. So something that you need to get from them is the PDF version, right, of the branded ebook because that's what we actually upload to the website server, and that's what people click on to download, right? But the second item that you need to ask for is a little graphic of the book. Most likely they already created it because when they branded your PDF, they created something. So that's the second piece that you'll get, because that will use that little graphic to then create that section on your website. So that's the branding piece. The next piece to that is obviously it's going to probably be a little bit of a discussion to see, because these are funnels. Now we're creating small little mini funnels for that lead magnet. So it's going to depend on your business or the strategy that we're doing on whether, Lorraine, to your point, is it going to be a button that then there's a form, or is there going to be a form already there? What's going to happen after that? It all depends whether you're using HubSpot, you're not using any CRM, whatever it might be, and we'll help you through those steps. But just want to make sure everybody's on the same page, because we definitely want you to do this. And when you get to that point where you have that asset, now we're going to probably start another conversation, see what type of funnel we're going to create for you. So you're getting very close, Lorraine. So whenever you have that there, you're on HubSpot. So we'll probably, we'll walk you. That's going to be actually very simple because you have everything already built in. We'll have some tasks for you to do so you can actually document all that data that's being pinged on that form. Cool.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Anybody else? Any questions? Stuff that you're working on, ideas, anything?
So I have another question then. Just
Might as well. Nobody else wants to ask questions.
so I guess another kind of small win that I did last week is, so I attended my local Chamber of Commerce meeting, maybe like 2 weeks ago or something. And one of the presenters was talking about SEO and building your presence online and all that. So I was like, oh, let me get on and see what he's talking about. So I was on the call and he wanted to know if anybody wanted to use their website as like an example. So I gave my website, and so he presented it in front of the call, and he was really impressed with everything that was on my website, how the design and everything like that. So I booked a follow-up because he was offering like a 30-minute free consultation to follow up. So I
So
booked
stop right there for 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Who can tell me what this guy, I don't know his name or anything. Who can tell me what just happened right there? Steven, you're trying to say, but you're muted.
Lead magnet.
Boom. The lead magnet in this case was book a free consultation with me, 30 minutes. He created awareness, speaking at the event. He had engagement with Lorraine. She volunteered to showcase, use hers as the example. He had engagement back and forth with her, and those that were there, he probably engaged with others as well. I'm assuming used other examples, these type of things, right? That's the engagement end of it. And he wants to get people subscribed into him to get them into his offer. And what did he use? Free consultation. Very simple, kind of everyday use of the lead magnet approach to it. So Lorraine, I just wanted to kind of stop there to use that as because it's what we've been talking about. It's a perfect example of it. And you went with it. So you booked the consultation, and what went on from there?
Yes, I mainly booked the consultation because he was mentioning a lot of good things about the Google My Business. So my question is, as I'm using Social Soaring to kind of build my social media presence, does it make sense to use the posts, or maybe even the post that gets the most engagement during the week from my social media platform as a post on Google My Business? Because I wasn't even really using that feature on Google My Business, like the posting. I was just going on there to get more reviews and that sort of thing. So I'm still learning about the geotagging. That's still a bit over my head, but would that make sense? Because it's not really a picture of like a property or anything, but it would maybe be something that can drive more people to Google and get my thing to rank more, my page to rank more. But I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Roger, I'm going to kick that one over to you.
Hopefully my question makes sense.
No, it does.
But
makes total sense. But
Yeah,
I'll
no.
let Roger expand on the value of GMB.
Yeah, absolutely. So the GMB, obviously those posts are very, very important in many different ways. Number one, we're all trying to rank on Google, right? So any type of Google asset, any type of profile, anything you can get is very valuable. So that's why I usually push our clients to set up their GMB, their Google My Business profile. So once you're there, the next step, easy wins. We always try to take baby steps and kind of walk you through this. So next easy win is to make sure you have all the same information, say on your website, that's on your Google My Business. So it all kind of, it all is the same. So when Google looks it up and they go to metadata, comparing companies that have the same names in this case, that, oh, this is the company that fits with this website. So it kind of starts referring everything back. The next easy win, once you have all that set up, is your reviews. So you are heading in the right direction, Lorraine. You're following the correct route. Now you're getting into the more advanced. So the more advanced stages are when you start getting into posts, because those you can easily take one of your blog posts for the month, for example, and do kind of like a synopsis of it or a short version of it, and take that and add it to your Google My Business. You can do that. Absolutely. And then you put a link on the Google My Business post back to the blog post, the full blog post that lives on your website. So that's a good way to continue kind of using that, because at this point, I can't remember exactly, but they are short-lived. Can't remember how long the posts kind of stay up for, but point being, you're being active. And what Google's looking at is active brands that are out there putting out value, right? So that's an easy way to kind of stay active on there. Now, the pictures is one that you asked. What do I put on? It's just going to be a random picture of a house or something like that. Or an advanced version of that would be to then get a post, get an image. And what I usually recommend is to make sure that image has your logo and your phone number and even your address if you want to put that on there. But I think the most important thing is going to be the branding, which is your logo, and the contact information, which is going to be your phone number at the very least. Once you have that on there, now it's and geotag. Then we get into the geotagging, right? Because if you're probably that post is talking about something in the Bronx, right? You're in the Bronx, so maybe you geotag it with the address from the Bronx or one of the properties you're working with in that area. But that image has your logo and your phone number. So wherever Google decides to actually rank that particular piece or digital asset, which is a picture, it's gonna have. They're not just gonna see a picture, and you see this a lot on Google Images. Just a bunch of pictures when you look up images. Well, yours is gonna be there, but it's going to have your branding and your phone number. So people are going to be able to relate your brand to that. So those are different ways to help Google identify the brand relationship between all your different assets. And number two is for the human to actually relate your brand with a service that you do. That makes sense?
Really quick. Yes, it does. And am I okay? Yeah. So one of my targets is doing like building the mortgage note business. So I can geotag without having an exact address. Is that right? So like if I just want to geotag it, so if somebody searches mortgage note investing, I want my page to start showing up on the first page of the search again. So I can just tag it something related to mortgage notes, and then is that a geotag, even though it's not an exact address?
Correct. So a geotag is just a location. And when I say location, doesn't necessarily mean an address. It could be a city, an entire city. Right now I deal with a lot of stuff in like the North Carolina area, right? So depending on what city I'm trying to hit for that page, I focus on the city because I don't have a certain address for that location, right? So for you, once again, I know you're located in New York, in the Bronx, so you can literally put that, doesn't have to have an exact address. So when Google starts looking for results that it needs to serve up, basically give a searcher and someone that's in the Bronx, it starts going through the database and seeing the closest thing possible. And if you have it in your profile that you're in the Bronx, that your website is there, all the addresses going, and your images are all geotagged, obviously this company is in the Bronx, and obviously this company does X service, right? So that's where you start kind of moving yourself up, especially when you're a brand new company or someone that's just working on the digital market. Because all the big guys that have been there forever, kind of the big companies that have been there forever, they're established. So they don't do hardly anything anymore. Google just knows them. So for us that are just getting started, we got to do all the little things to make sure Google knows exactly to the T, exactly what we do and where we're located. And that's how all that kind of comes together.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Anybody else? Questions? Ideas? Anything?
Okay, I have a question for Roger. Google My Business, they're not liking me right now with my address. So I tried to give them the location of our co-working space, and I got back a very generic email that's like, if you don't own that office, you can't use it.
Correct.
So is there a way around that, or am I stuck using my home address?
Before I answer, I'm going to pass it to Sean. He dealt with the TRC.
Okay, fine. I have a question.
He actually might have a trick there.
Yeah, so there's a slight trick. All right, I'll be honest with you. Our address, so the Reno, Nevada address that we use which is our registered address for the business. It's obviously not the building that I'm in right now or Roger's in. What I did to sneak by it was I just used the building address, not a suite number. So the company that we're registered through, that's our registered agent up there, they actually have a suite number, and this was only for GMB to sneak by it a little bit. I just did not put it as, I only used the main address number, right? Number of the building, the street name, Reno, Nevada, and the zip code, and I left off the suite or anything, and it went through.
Okay.
Only because there's an option instead of getting a postcard to that area. And I don't know if this was because we were just updating, I was changing a address of TRC to a different address, that I was able to verify it via email.
Okay.
And I think I had to upload a document or something about it. So try to sneak it through that way. See if there's a way to do it where it's, you're not getting a postcard there. You're doing it by verifying through email.
Okay.
You may need to register your house address, right? Your physical home address, and Roger can speak to how you can tell it not to show on the map if you don't want that actually showing there, and let it sit for a little while, and then go and try to play that game of then go and change your address like you guys moved, and see if that allows you to have that ability to circumvent the postcard piece of it.
Okay.
Because that's really what the address is about, is they want to mail that postcard with that code on it to get you verified on it.
Okay.
Marie, can't we get mail at Workplicity?
You can, but they do not, Google My Business does not allow you to use like PO boxes, mailbox location, like a UPS store. I have had a address there before. Couldn't register that. Co-working spaces, they do not allow you to register those. It has to be a physical building that you have, that you have a lease to that physical building.
Yeah, one of the things I guess we can also talk about, why are they being so picky or so hard to be able to kind of do this, and why they're going to have you jump over hoops when you start changing your address, unfortunately, is because there's thousands, probably millions at this point worldwide of people trying to game the system for Google, and they're in the process of trying to clean out all those. They're not going to do it, but they're going to get rid of a lot. And if they make it harder, those people that are fake businesses, basically they're just putting out pretty much just one-page landing pages and creating Google My Business, leveraging that to basically generate leads and sell them to you, right? They're trying to get rid of those, so that way those guys don't rank and take the opportunity away from real companies like you guys. So right now they're going through that whole process, and it has been a little bit of a pain in the butt. But since you're a real company, you can speak to that, right? You can actually say, hey, you can continue pinging them and making sure that you get accepted depending on what your address is going to be ultimately going to be.
So
Okay.
along those lines, hey Bryson, stop. So along those lines, we have our Google GMB thing, and we're actually a UPS box, which is interesting too. But they have that website section. Should we have that built out to match our actual real website, or should that? Because it doesn't look like you can do a redirect or anything to our regular website. What are your thoughts on that area?
So you got through, because there are some, so before I kind of say the exception, you got through setting up your Google My Business using a UPS address or
Yeah.
post. Yep.
Yeah, it's one of the UPS stores. Yeah.
Got it. So some of you guys you might have the same situation as Stephen here. There are we have clients, active clients that actually got through that. So the majority of you guys, just to be clear, won't get through. There's the one exceptions. So what I would do, I'd be careful, Stephen, changing your address, because then they start kind of looking at you like, wait a minute, you might be fake. So I would leave that alone for now. And then you're saying that you have the website section empty. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's just it's basically the template that they have right now. You know, they have that little thing down on the bottom or on the side that says website and services.
Right.
You can go through and fill out all that stuff, but the website is just the generic template that they have.
Got it.
I'd love to redirect that, but it doesn't look like they have that functionality. So.
Because you definitely want that filled out. I'm just imagining kind of like the profile setting that I'm used to seeing. And I'm imagining that where it says, your website, that section is empty. So you just need to put in your URL. Am I following correctly or no?
Well, let's see. What is that thing at? It's, I can do this maybe. So it's like that. Basically, I've got the site up here, but I've got my details. Oops, oh, thanks. So I've got the details and stuff, but they've got this website piece down here. It's just this ugly template thing that.
Oh,
they've got
that's-
going
Steven,
on.
if you go
That's-
into
Gotcha, yeah.
into info, you have to go into info and then
Yeah,
enter
go to
in your
info.
website there. I think that website is if you want to create a website through
Correct.
Google.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so in
that's
here
a
I
whole
have all
other
my stuff.
strategy. that's
Okay.
definitely
If you-
a strategy, but you guys don't want to go there just yet.
If you scroll
right
down,
here,
it should be
talk about it.
about you.
There it
Yeah,
is.
so
You
we've
have it.
got
in
all
there.
that. Yep, we got that
Um,
in there. I just wanted to make sure that this was not the same. I couldn't find a way to redirect that to an actual real thing, or if they're just trying to upsell another website.
It's another way. It's a whole nother conversation why they have that there. Not for this. I would leave that alone for everybody. You don't need to mess with that one there. What I would do though, Stephen, in your website, you definitely want to have the HTTPS version. Because sometimes it kind of goes. I know I'm fixing something right now with Jordan and Jacob, and if those things aren't there correctly, it could cause some issues. So just to stay safe, right? I would probably update that. Make sure you have the HTTPS. That situation. Best way to do it, go to your website, take the address bar, copy that in there.
Yep, it's been updated. Just did it.
Perfect. Awesome.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Questions? Wondering why everybody's on if nobody has any questions. Everybody's so great, perfect, nothing going on in their business that they need help with, huh?
I thought you were going to teach me more of like geotag voodoo tricks, so that's why I'm here.
You want more geotagging tricks?
Yeah, what other voodoo you got?
Everybody kind of got to that level. You're starting to geotag. Well, I think the next level was actually brought up, right? It was on all your geotagging on your websites. A lot of you guys are doing them, sending them over. So the next I like that we haven't mentioned this in past recordings, but if you haven't gotten to your Google My Business, I think that was a big one that came up on this conversation with Lorraine, is the Google My Business. Once again, a lot of people don't know what to do with those posts, and they don't realize that they're short-lived too. They're just, a couple of weeks and then they disappear. So that way, that's why it's important to leverage the content on your websites that you have. If you have consistent blog posts, for example, going on your websites, you don't have to have them all as posts on Google My Business. You can choose one per month and then just add that to your Google My Business. But the picture that you put on there, I definitely make it unique and different than the featured image that you're utilizing on your website. So if you do that, you're gonna have more opportunities, right? Because it's now a different asset. So on your Google My Business, I would have a unique image. It could be a house, basically the big thing that I want to push is that you brand it with your logo and you put at least your phone number on there. And it could be done with Photoshop or Canva, whatever you want to use. That's probably going to be good.
I got something on that though.
What's that?
I did a post to Google My Business and it had our phone number on it and they rejected it. So
on the
sometimes
picture,
they get back if it has personal information. Yeah, it had it on the picture.
On the picture, they rejected it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got an email back. I could send it to you and share it with you so you can kind of see what they're looking at.
Definitely send it over. We're always trying to kind of keep up that. That's been working for quite a while. So I actually want to see that emails. It'll help us kind of adjust because I haven't seen any of that stuff be blocked. But I know their big initiative again for 2021, especially with this whole thing that happened. There's a lot of people online. There's a lot of people trying to hack the system in regards to marketing, right? Trying to kind of get up there and bypass all the brands and everything. So yeah, it might be an extra restriction that they're putting in there, but send it over to me. I'll check it out and see if we can share some stuff next week about it.
So Roger, can you explain again why it's different picture between the website and the Google My Business? Why it can't match?
Sure. So you want it to be separate because in reality, what you're telling Google is that the post that you're putting on Google My Business is different than the post that's on your website, even though you're redirecting. So stay with me on this one. The post on Google My Business is almost like a short version, right? Like an intro, almost like a press release, just getting you started with the information and then saying, hey, if you want to learn more, click this link, and it links them back to the full version, right? So a lot of times when we get featured on a magazine or something, you know, the magazine itself will just talk a little bit about you and then redirect them to your website. So that's basically what you're doing when you're actually putting a Google My Business post, because they only give you they don't give you a lot of room to write either. So it's a limited amount of characters. So that's why it's awesome to use one of your blog posts. You could just take a short version of it that you rewrite, use it as a Google My Business post, use your own featured image, right? Now it's a unique post. Now it has nothing to do, right? In Google's mind, in the robot's mind, right? These are two unique assets. Even though they're the same, they're two unique ones. Now you have more, then we go back to that fishing kind of example. Now you have more lines in the water. And that's why I kind of like to kind of keep those separate. So they're unique.
And then
Does that make sense,
mentioned
Mickey?
that it does. And then you said that to once a month to update, change the content. Is that it?
I would set a goal. If you're going to be aggressive on Google My Business, I would set a goal to start. I would set a goal picking one of my blog posts per month and putting a Google post. Now, we could, now, once again, I'm taking steps here because it sounds like some people are already taking some action on that part. We could just copy and paste a piece of it. That'd be the easy thing to do, right? Copy a little piece of our blog post, put it up there. The better approach, obviously, always is to have unique content. So if you can look at what you wrote and rewrite it a little bit, doesn't have to be completely rewritten, but if you have a little bit of a uniqueness to the post that you do on Google, it just helps. Now, what happened to Jordan, I'm glad he shared that. Some of you might get hit with, you create a graphic, right? And you add your logo and you add the phone number and you might get an email, random. We haven't seen that too much. Jordan just shared. Same thing that happened to Steven. We're saying here, hey, you can't use P.O. boxes, but some of you guys will be able to use P.O. boxes. It just might bypass. So share that with it. We want to kind of keep learning as a group, right? Because Google's an ever-changing environment. So if we see a trend as a group, this is live too. If we see a trend as a group, we adjust, and there's ways to adjust. Maybe we don't mention our phone number anymore. Maybe we just mention our, we just brand it with our logo. All I'm worried, the big goal here is to make sure your brand continues to stay out there, right? Continues to stay out there. So even if it's a picture with your logo, it's a win. That makes sense? Gotcha.
So along the lines of the reviews, I've been toying with the idea of having a single page where when we give something to someone or whatever, hey, you mind giving us a review, and letting them choose one of the 4 places, Google or Facebook or BBB or wherever it is, to make it really easy for them to give those reviews and expose that on our site. So that it's basically just give them a link and have them do that. What are the advantages and disadvantages that you can think of for making the reviews that are actually on our site that are visible dynamic, so they rotate through the various ones instead of just the static ones that are there currently? Is the static information better, or can Google actually see if you're dynamically reading from another source?
Absolutely. So like an RSS feed, right? If you have a plugin that actually automatically, basically for those of you who do not make it too technical, when you have a plugin on your website that automatically is pulling, kind of like a lot of you guys are real estate, so kind of like the MLS, right? Pulling information from somewhere else and rendering it on your website. There's plugins that can do that for you for your reviews. Now, well, to answer your question, Steven, yeah, Google can kind of see where everything's coming from and where it originates. So if you manually put it on your website or you dynamically bring it in, it's not going to have a major, it could have small kind of impact, but the major impact I would rather have is to focus on getting them on those big platforms. Now, one thing I like to kind of mention, because it's a good point that Steven brings up, I have, say, 3, right? Maybe I have Facebook, Yelp, and my Google My Business profile. And you're like, well, where do I send people? Where should they leave their reviews? Number one answer I have for you if they leave a review and anywhere where they're comfortable with is number one, right? It's number one response from me. Number two response is if you have an option, I would always try to get them to the Google platform. Why? Once again, we're all trying to rank on Google, so the Google asset. So the Google asset will always have kind of a bigger value. So you want to kind of think about it. But I always say it's like, if someone's not comfortable with Google My Business, they're all lost, but they have Yelp, they're always using Yelp, well, have them leave it there. It's okay. It still has value. It has a lot of value. Facebook has a ton of value. But if you want me to compare, I'm going to tell you hands down, Google. And why? Because we're actually trying to rank on their platform. So they actually put more value on that one.
Even actually made me think of another question that I had. Are you familiar with the Greenleaf platform? Apparently it's supposed to be a platform that can automate reviews, or I think it can pull it from their platform and put it on the website or Google. I'll be honest, I haven't done much research on it, but I was just wondering if you're familiar with it.
I'm not familiar with Greenleaf in particular. I'm familiar with the different plugins that do kind of dynamically bring in from different areas on the internet where you can leave reviews, but that
Okay.
particular one I'm not.
Okay.
All right. I know we kind of went on a left turn. Everybody started talking GMB on here, but I do want to circle back on this. And Liz, Marie, we're just going to spend about 3 or 4 minutes on this. I don't want you to actually share the screen and share the whole thing, but I want you to just kind of talk a little bit about this lead magnet that you guys are building out. What is it? What inspired you to go this way with it? And I want to kind of add what you and I talked about on the call, kind of next layer. Once you have it done, what's kind of the next piece to really enhance it? So if you could just start with sharing a little bit about, like, what did you guys do to it? What did you break it into? Why'd you go this route? And then I'm going to kind of share how everybody could kind of use this as an idea to run with in their own business.
Yeah, so I like spreadsheets and comparing things. I'm very visual. So my idea was to compare, and there's a lot of buyers especially iBuyers in our local market. So people are always saying, like, you're going to get a lowball offer from these all cash offer places. So visually, I wanted to show the difference between, like, what you would get if you sell your house directly to Liz and Marie versus going with some kind of iBuyer like Open Door or Zillow or whatever, or going the traditional route with a realtor. So for me, it was more about, like, the money and just seeing the bottom line numbers. So once I developed that little spreadsheet, and then we talked about the advantages and relieving the stress and all the hassle-free things that we provide that you might not get from an iBuyer or realtor. And so we just had, like, check marks. And so once I had the visuals, then I was like, okay, I want to turn this into an actual book and explain all of these different areas where we can help you, and just how we're different. So kind of explaining that process.
Yeah, so in the book, we take each of those 3 categories and compare them to each other. And it's funny because it always says, closing fees. Liz and Marie pay costs, period. Closing fees, on an iBuyer. Oh, you're going to split it. They're going to do this. All the scenarios that can happen. And then the realtor, it's going to be a negotiated back and forth. The next thing, repairs. Liz and Marie don't need you to do any repairs, period. Oh, the iBuyer, they're going to come in and then, tell you have to pay for all this. You have to do that. The realtor is going to say, you should fix up the house. We need to get it done. And so it's kind of funny because it's just very short and to the point for us. Yeah. And then for that, we just Googled stuff. What did we do? I just Googled, and then rewrote kind of what is the closing cost. So that is in a layman's term, so to speak, not all the rigmarole. So we just took that same article or whatever and then rewrote it. So that's, where we gathered up all of our information too.
Yeah, and we hired someone on Fiverr to kind of do a comparison for like the traditional, Liz is laughing, the traditional route versus the iBuyer versus Liz. Like I tried to give them the whole outline, but I don't think they had a clue what we do. So the book that they sent us back was just comparing like a traditional sale with a realtor versus an iBuyer. But it's okay because we clipped paragraphs that we needed and then reassembled everything.
They were obviously spoke a different language and translated it from their language into English, and there were sentences that we were like, what? So we got what we paid for $12.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously a thing to think about, right? When we're hiring them on there, we've got to really do a little bit of kind of back and forth piece of it. I'm not going to get too off track about that part, but the one part about it that I really loved was not only is it this breakdown, right? It's the trifecta comparison between traditional iBuyer and Liz and Marie, but it was the chart. Right. There was the verbiage breakdown, which makes up a lot of the content on it, but the physical chart where they used actual numbers of basically of a property that makes sense. I don't know if you guys actually used a real property or if you just made up all the information, but the pricing made sense to the market. So when somebody's looking at it in a three-way comparison on there, and it even showed like your guys' offer was less than the iBuyer, which was less than what they would get on the market, but it all broke down at the bottom of that chart as to what's going in your pocket. And basically the offer was the offer, which was hitting your pocket under Liz and Marie. And it was only about what, 5-10 grand less than what they would have got if they went with the iBuyer. So in comparison, they're not really losing out on a lot. And they did a really good job of highlighting how stress-free it was without really saying it was stress-free to what Liz was just saying. Repairs, we don't make you do anything, period. Closing costs, you don't pay it, period. Kind of just simple one sentence that was like, well, that was pretty simple, right? It almost made me think like you should play off of, who was it back in the day that used the, was it Progressive? So easy a caveman can do it. Or was that Geico or something? So easy that a caveman can do it, right?
Yeah.
Kind of piece of it. So the reason I wanted them to share was because it was outside the norm, right? It's not the, hey, here's the 7 steps to selling in today's market, or here's 10 ways to get the most out of your house, which is what we see a lot in the real estate space. It was really a down and dirty of, yeah, we're not going to give you the highest amount. We are going to be a low number, but in the grand scheme of it, you're actually saving. You're actually winning, right? Still going this direction as an eye opener piece of it. Now, before I talk about how they can enhance all of this, just to summarize this, how could everybody on here? Well, if you're in real estate, take the concept and run with it. Build something out for your own self. Maybe you don't do iBuyer versus traditional versus you if iBuyers are not super popular in your area. But maybe you compare it against another investor in your area that maybe is the bigger name, but you don't say their name. You see where I'm going? Like, get creative and leverage this a little bit on it. If you're not in real estate, this idea of comparison still works. We here at TRC, we could very easily do this traditional digital marketing agency versus TRC as a lead magnet and break out how our packages, our services, what we do stack up. What do you actually get for the price? What's the value versus somebody else, right? I'm looking at some of the others that are on the call, like Jordan, for example. You're a coach, you're a consultant in a sense on the credit side of things. Well, there's agencies, like large companies out there that do credit repair, credit restoration, doing a comparison analysis element of this. Maybe it's a chart, maybe it's a breakdown, maybe it's you highlight an element of how it's more personalized working direct with you versus over here, you're just a number and an algorithm and a spit out and this type of piece. at the end of the day, this concept of verse, Roger and I talk about it from a blog standpoint. These are great blogs to write. Just take your lead magnet now that's got all this information, right? Liz and Marie, you've got all this information stacked up in there. But there are multiple elements to each piece of that. Each one of them can become blog articles of their own that talk about this tiny little piece about, let's just highlight something like closing costs. Maybe the blog starts out with, let's explain what a closing cost actually is, what's involved in the closing cost. Then let's talk briefly about how the closing cost element works. And the blog doesn't have to be super long because there's a call to action at the end of it. You want to dig deeper into this and really understand it, blah, 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 blah. Go get our blah, whatever the name of the lead magnet is, right? And let's just say this lead magnet's got 20 elements when you really sit down and map it out. Well, there's 20 blog articles. And the blog is uniquely written. It's not exactly what's in the lead magnet, in this case, in your ebook, right? It's uniquely written of 500, 800, maybe even 1,000 words that then ends with this call to action to go to get more detail about it, download it. The next blog, another element of it, go to the ties to the lead magnet, ties to everything ties back, right, to that. Now, you really want to take it even to another level, and I even mentioned this when I emailed you guys back, video, right? Now, you may want to look at that and say, if I try to go over this whole entire thing in a video, that easily could be a 90-minute to 120-minute long, an hour and a half, 2 hour long. That's too much at one time. So maybe we look at it and go, okay, let's break that down where they opt in to get 4 or 5 videos, one a day for the next 5 days, right? And each video builds on itself, but they also get the ebook as a download to follow along with. Or the ebook has the meat and potatoes to it, but in the video now, you're able to put personality and explain. And you're able to amplify this. I don't know, the creative side of me is coming out now, where it's like, hey, let's talk repairs today. All of a sudden it spits over in the video to Liz standing in front of a house going, all done, we take care of that. And then it's back to, you guys going on to explain the other one. Just something that amplifies this. Wow, super easy, right? Again, this starts getting into more of a advertisement, marketing kind of element to it, but we're amplifying the piece that's out there. You put a lot of work into this, got a lot of good content, a lot of good information, right? And this becomes now something that's the central focus for when somebody gets to your website. Why are they there? All the other content that you're creating, social media wise, blog wise, YouTube wise, anything that you're doing out there, now it's got a central meaning. It could point back to something. And in that chain, the journey of the customer, this is that low threshold first date. I didn't come pick you up, Liz. I had you meet me for dinner. I'm picking back on Liz because I was picking on her a couple weeks ago about the whole lead magnet dating element of things. But it's that low threshold, easy first date, right? And it's not a, hey, sign up for my webinar. It's not a, get on a phone with me. It's not any of the things where they feel like it's going to be a huge sales fest. It's a downloadable, and it's videos dropped to you every day for the next couple days. And when they go to opt in for it, there can even be a video before they even opt in where you're explaining why you're breaking it down over the next couple days, why you're, and it's all value, 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 value. And you're constantly comparing against the opponent. In this case, it's constantly comparing against the iBuyers and realtors. And I know we have some real estate agents on the call here and part of this group. I'd tell them the same thing. I would play against, if I'm a real estate agent and that's all I do, is just property listings and property and work with buyers, I would compare against an investor and play the negatives against what they're going to do, just like we're going to do it back the other side. But if you're in the coaching space, you're just comparing against the other types in your industry, what you do, and compare against and highlight why your method is better, right? And if you position it from a bias way, you don't make it so obvious that you're tooting your own horn, so to say, but you literally break down the comparison element of it. At the end of it, it will show that your way is better, faster, easier, less stressful, right? Still gets a large chunk of money. It, from a real estate side, gets a large chunk of money in their pocket. These type of elements. And if you want some examples of these, just go on Google, YouTube, these type of things, and search like this versus this. HubSpot versus Salesforce. It's a big one in my mind right now because our team sent me one of these the other day. They're out there all over the place. This platform versus this platform. This service versus this service. This type of food versus this type of food. Anybody that's producing content out there is playing with this versus this type information because it works really well. Comments, questions, anything about that end of it? Because I know a couple of you guys were reaching out trying to get ideas on them or whatnot.
So Liz and Marie aren't sharing their ebook. Is that what the consensus is? We're not.
Correct.
we're
You
not
can
getting
take
to
the
see it?
concept and run with it, but I am not going to have them share out their hard work.
Figure, I have to ask just in case.
The only way you're going to
I
get
know,
it
it's
is if
actually
you
not
do the
done
hard
yet.
work of
Getting the final touches.
I've already been jotting down some information relative to my business. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Lorraine, one that pops to mind on yours is notes versus
Oh yeah.
homes.
I mean,
right?
Right, exactly. That's what yeah.
Yep. Notes through you versus notes through this versus notes through, maybe there's 3 different elements or 2. It doesn't have to be 3.
Or not even just the paper asset investing versus physical property investing, or active investing versus truly passive, that sort of thing. That's where my mind is going in that respect. So
Paper investing versus stock investing.
Well, stock is still intangible, so
Correct. But I bet you start breaking the numbers down.
right.
See what I'm saying?
That's actually, yeah, I'm gonna write that down. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments, ideas, anything on this topic here? If not, we're going to go ahead and wrap her up.
Well, just real quick, I wanted to say thank you on explaining the videos, because when I saw the email and you were like, oh, there's some videos around here, we started trying to brainstorm it and I was like, ooh, that would be a really long video. I don't know how useful that would be, but breaking it down into sections makes sense. So I like that.
Yeah, my email was quick and short back to you guys because I knew we would talk again on it. But that's what I mean by from a video side is really start to think about, again, if we can get done in a 35, 40 minute window, then great. It's one video. But anything more than that, let's start breaking it up. Even a 40, 50 minute video could very easily just be 3 or 4 10-minute videos that get sent out one a day for 3 or 4 days. Right? It keeps them engaged now. It keeps them, especially if they're really bought into it. And now that gives us another metric to track. How often are they opening those emails? How deep into it is that lead getting before they die out? And then what's the next step out of that? Obviously, now we've got them deep enough 4 or 5 days in that we can now put something like, hey, let's get on a call and talk about your situation and have a free consultation about your real estate needs. Right? And this is a completely different approach than every other real estate investor out there saying, call me today for a cash offer. Call me today. I want to buy your house from you. right? Which is what everybody else is out there running around doing.
So, Sean, I have one last question. If you can just explain to us everything on the website, because so I understand the lead magnet and all the cycle that goes back into that. So this is like one side, right, to attract. And then at the same time, we're still building all those blogs for those specific avatar, right?
Correct.
So all this has to be done at the same time and ongoing and everlasting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Think of your website as the world's largest octopus. If I found like the most insane octopus ever to inhabit the earth, it had so many arms and tentacles that it could sit in the Pacific Ocean and reach something all the way in the Mediterranean.
The Kraken.
Exactly. Right? That's what we want our website to be like. Is this just sea creature from hell that only makes sense in a sci-fi movie? Because our website's got so many different arms and so many different things working off of it that it's grabbing from this and grabbing from this, and it's got this one back here, this one over here is doing something. But at the end of it, what does it do? An octopus pulls everything into its center. That's where it has to eat from, the one opening underneath its center mass body, right? So it grabs over here, but it has to pull it in here. And that's the way our website works, is we're grabbing attention from anywhere that we can get it, all these different elements. SEO is a piece of it. Blogging is an element to that. The on-page side of it is a piece of that. The location pages is another piece of that. Videos that are on there embedded from YouTube, that's another arm off of it. Social media that's doing something to bring them over. GMB that's doing something. Everything's pulling it in. And our offer, our core offer, what we do is our mouth. It's how we eat. And everything has to pull it into the mouth. Which means we're not just putting a bunch of crap out there just to put a bunch of crap out there. It has to make sense. Because I don't want an octopus with a shark fin coming off of it. That just looks stupid and doesn't have any functionality. That's like a website with a page on it that has nothing to do with my business. Or I went and did a bunch of mailers or did a bunch of marketing campaigns or went and put a bunch of social media stuff out there that has absolutely nothing to do about what I do as a business. It just confuses the masses, right? They start looking at it, and now all of a sudden you're in a circus, not in the ocean anymore. You're the freak animal that people are only come to look at because it's odd. And they're not really there for any other reason. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I really like the analogy also, that there is many tentacles and all of it are as important because they will feed your octopus, right? And yes, it needs to be relevant. And I think this is where it gets tricky, is that, because I remember once you were saying that not to dilute the content into the others, right? That each blog needed to be its own thing with its own specific content, that it can bleed elsewhere. And I think that's where it starts to be difficult for me. It's not to bleed my content into the other.
When we say don't bleed, what we're talking about is more, and Roger can even expand a little bit more on this, but we don't want to bleed in the sense where we've got so much duplicated content, right? That's diluted and bled out at that point. Example, if I've got a business that does, I've got one thing that I do in this business, and that's all I talk about all day long on every single blog and every posting that I put out there on social media. And every time I get in front of a room, I just talk about this one tiny little thing that I do. At some point, I become like the cartoon character that's just like, wah, 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 right? I get muted out because I've heard it 100 times. I've read it everywhere. I'm tired of seeing it, right? The we buy houses is that. It's a diluted message. It does not catch people's attention anymore. Hey, I'm a coach and I'm going to get you results. It's diluted out. Every freaking coach under the sun says they're going to get you results. Nobody turns their head for that, right? However, if you are a real estate investor, Mickey. Your primary thing that you do is you buy homes. However, we can't just say that. But there is so much to unpack in what actually goes on there, right? And yes, do topics kind of overlap? Do they feed kind of into each other? 100%. And that's why I think Roger's kind of nails it when him and I talk a lot, and we've talked about it on the WebBuzz podcast a few times or whatnot. Your website's like a very complex spider web that's mapped out perfectly. The average person can look at it and it doesn't make sense, but how things get tied together makes sense to the search engine. New York subway, another great example. If you looked at a map of the New York subway, and you didn't live there, you've never been on it, you have no idea how to navigate it, you're like, what in the world is this? But Lorraine lives there. That's like walking down the sidewalk to her. It makes total sense, right, to her, because she's in it every day. She's around it. This is the same concept here. Google understands all of this stuff when we do it the right way, as crazy as it may look to the outside world, because they're in it every day. It's like walking down a sidewalk to them. And that's where, when you've got the right messaging, you've got a blog post on this topic, but there's another subtopic buried in there. And now we expand off of it and go deeper into that one, linking back to this, linking back to the next piece of the site. You see how we're making it clear for who it needs to be clear to. But that's just another, in the grand scheme, that's just another tentacle out off that octopus, because somebody might search for this, not this. But because we pulled that piece out and wrote content around this, did a video around it, did some social around it, right now it feeds people back into it. Does that help clear that up a little bit?
Yes, thank you.
And that's where I was going with Liz and Marie's piece. I bet if they sat down and really looked at everything that they're talking about in that lead magnet, they can easily find 20, 30, 35 topics, individual topics that could be expanded even deeper. That if they were to write all of that or put all of that into that lead magnet, they're now writing a book. That ebook isn't 5 or 6 pages anymore. It's 500, 600 pages. Well, we're not trying to write a book at the moment. You're not trying to be authors. You're just trying to get a tiny little ebook that's got some value that really is only there because I want their name and email address. I want the book to be in the blog posts. All the individual little chapters are now blogs all over my website, scattered out there, being able to be used in multiple different ways to grab the mass attention. And I'll eventually get them in, instead of just trying to cram it into a book and saying, here's how you get it all. You got to buy this whole thing. You got to get this whole thing right now to get all that information. Make sense?
So that leaves me with one more question. I think ours was like 13 pages. Like, is that a good length?
It's okay because you're doing a very deep analysis, and it's really not even deep. It's just you're breaking down a lot of different options.
Mm-hmm.
So 13 may seem like a lot, but in the grand scheme, it's only scratching the surface.
Yeah, and I think it's just over like 2,000 words or something. So it's not like tons and tons of content. It's just
right. And that's where, if it's laid out right, it doesn't look overwhelming, it's going to be good. But that's also why I'm saying the video, right? Because some people, again, remember, and even it could just be even an audio. We don't need to go that crazy just yet. Video and downloadable, those two elements right there pretty much cover the basis of the average learner, the average researcher, right? In this case, your ideal customer, Some want to just skim through and read, and 13 pages in an ebook is not very crazy. Others want to watch or just listen because they can understand things a little bit better. So you'd nail both right out of the gate with that.
Okay.
Now, if Jordan tries to do an ebook on like three credit repair tips, and he says it's 13, 15, 20 pages, that's too much. Because it almost feels like he's trying to teach everything he knows in that book, and that's just going to tune people away. It's too much in that element. Make sense? And when you get your final version, we'll take a look at it and see. Maybe there is a section or two or a page or two that we're like, does it really need to be there? We can drop it. Okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. Brooke and Bill, you guys still good to hang on when we end? Cool. All right. With that being said, I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I know I opened up a conversation about adjusting the time of this call last week. I put a feeler out. I'm going to sit down later this week and kind of scrum through that again and see what the consensus was. And I'll probably put another post out with some options that Roger and I kind of nailed down to see what makes sense, depending on what those answers were. I didn't look at all of them yet. But do keep your eye out on that, especially if you want to have a say-so in it. Well, I always laugh. People want to yell and complain, but they don't put a say-so in things. So if you have a preference, be on the lookout for that, because we are thinking about adjusting the time of this to better suit kind of the masses on it. Okay. So with that, those that I have calls with throughout the rest of this week, I look forward to seeing you guys. And as always, Roger and I are here to help. If you got questions, throw them in the group. Feel free to ask away. We'll gladly help you in any way that we can.
Thank you. Good night.